Anybody not have the quiz? You should all have a copy, right? Because I gave it out a couple of classes ago. Solve as indicated. Marks will be given for partial solutions, so show your work. It's going to be the same marking scheme. Half mark for the original equation, half mark for rewriting it to get the thing by itself, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answers. Wrong or missing units, half mark off. Find the quiz yet, kiddo, or not?
No,
I know you do, but what am I? It's not what I have. Have you found it yet? Okay, keep looking. If not, I'll get you a copy. Here we go. How high is the cliff? I said, okay, first of all, dropped. That's important. That tells me VI is 0. I said, I guess they want me to find a displacement. I know VI is 0. A is negative 9.8. And they gave me the time, 18.5 seconds. Which equation? Liz, which equation? Yeah, I didn't bother writing the VIT either. I said it's going to be 0.5 AT squared or a half AT squared or AT squared over 2. Those are all the same equation. I think I told you the other day, if you are ever standing by a cliff dropping rocks, time how long it takes to hit the ground, square that, and then times by 5, because 9.8 is really close to 10. Half of 10 is 5. This works out to 4.9, which is pretty close to 5. That's how high the cliff is. I am going to get a negative answer because this is actually finding not a distance, it's finding a displacement. And I'm putting in down as negative. I'm not fussy with the vector symbols, but just interpreting the answers is the important part. So I'm going to get 0.5 times negative 9.8 times 18.5. Don't forget the squared. Okay, here we go. .5 times negative 9.8 times 18.5 squared. 18.5 squared. Do you all get negative 1,680? Yes? If you left the negative off, because it said how high, because it specifically didn't say what is the displacement, height is sort of a scalar. If you left the negative off, I won't freak out. If you left it on, I'm fine with that. If you didn't round to 3 sig figs, if you wrote it as negative 1677.025, I'm fine with that. If you said negative 1,670, I would take a half mark off because we round off, we don't chop off. That 7 would become an 8 if you round off to 3 sig figs. I would give you 1 mark for that. Half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer. Number 2, what is the impact velocity of the cannonball? This is asking me to find V final. What is V final not 0? It's not 0 on the ground. Where is it 0? At the top if you launch it up, or if you drop it, VI was 0. At the top it's 0, but not at the bottom. I'm going to use, I think, VF equals AT. Technically VI plus AT, but Alex, I'm lazy, and why write the VI if I don't have to? It's going to be negative 9.8 times 18.5. It did ask for velocity, not speed, so I am going to give them the vector version. Negative 9.8 times 18.5. I will get a negative answer, negative 181 meters per second. And I will be fussy. You do need the negative there. 1 mark for the equation, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer. I could have used VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD and used my answer from part A. I might have done that really quickly to check my answer. I might have gone 2 times negative 9.8 times negative 1677.025. Square root of that. Of course, the problem with this equation when I square root is, oh, did I make a mistake?
Yeah, you can go 9.8.
No, geez. Missed the 9. That looked totally wonky. It's worth getting a good calculator. I hope I've done the odd calculator rant, have I? I hope I have. Okay. The only issue is my calculator assumes I want the positive square root when I use that particular equation. And in this case, I know I'm traveling down. Sometimes I do want the positive one, but not in this case. I know I'm going down negative. But yeah, must be right. Okay, what's the velocity of the cannonball after 3.4 seconds? Okay, this is asking me to find VF. VI is still 0, A is still negative 9.8, but this time T equals 3.4. So this is the same equation as B, just a different time value. VF is going to be AT. It's going to be negative 9.8 times 3.4. Negative 33.3? 2? Is that right?
Yeah.
Units, meters per second. How far? That's a distance, displacement. I'm going to get a negative answer because we are below from where I started. Okay, I think, again, in fact, I think this is the same question as part A, in that I'm going to use D equals AT squared over 2, or 0.5 AT squared, or a half AT squared, because VI is still 0, A is still negative 9.8, but this time T is 6. So D equals 0.5 AT squared. Again, this is going to give me a displacement, 0.5 negative 9.8 times 6 squared. 0.5 times negative 9.8 times 6, don't forget the squared. Do you get negative 176.4, negative 176 meters? Okay. So far, I would say that is pretty plug and chuggish. We didn't even have to rearrange any equations. Now let's dive in even more. Ball is thrown straight up. Looks like in part A, they want me to find time. Now, how do I know that they want me to find time and not height? Because what is part B asking me to find? Height. So this how long must be time, not distance. They wouldn't ask me to find the same thing twice. VI is 56. A is negative 9.8. That's only 2 things. I need 3 things to find the fourth. What else do I know? At the top, VF is 0. So which equation? T equals VF minus VI over A. It's going to be 0 minus 56 divided by negative 9.8. 0 minus 56. Is there more than one thing on the top? Yes, brackets around the top, or use your fancy schmancy fraction button. Divided by, I don't need brackets around the bottom. You can put them there, but I don't need them. Do y'all get 5.714 to that? 5.71 seconds? Okay. 1 mark, half mark, half mark. B says find the maximum height. You could use D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. Why might I avoid that? Well, I'm using my answer from A to find part B. However, there will be a question on your test. Maybe only one, I can't remember, maybe 2, but there will be one where you are going to have to use your answer from A to find part B. I'll set it up that way. You'll have to find something in order to find something. I would probably say to myself, they want me to find that. I might use VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD. And then I can go D equals VF squared minus VI squared all over 2A. 0 squared minus 56 squared all over 2 times negative 9.8. Am I ending up above or below from where I started in this question?
You're above.
I better get a positive. If I get a negative, it means I've missed something or done something wonky. So one of the things I will always try and do is teach you what I call built-in error checks, so you can know ahead of time if you've made a typo on your calculator, because we're going to get into some pretty heavy-duty number crunching. 0 squared minus 56 squared, close off the top, divided by 2 times negative 9.8, close off the bottom. Close off the bottom. Do you get, 160 even?
Yeah.
That's a fluke, but I'll take that. 1 mark, half mark, half mark. How many marks was part A worth, Jaden? How many marks was part A worth, Jaden? Look in brackets next to part A. It says how many marks. Look at your quiz. You don't have it with you. Where would it be? At home? Okay, look at Liam's. How many marks is part A worth?
3.
How many marks is part A worth?
2.
How many marks is part B worth?
2.
How many marks is part D worth?
2.
How many marks is part C worth?
1. Oh.
Why? It probably means you know the answer already or can get there without doing number crunching. That's not good physics, that's just test writing. If you haven't picked up on something, something with more marks usually means more steps. Pardon me? I'm guessing D, you have to do some steps. In other words, what is the answer to part C without doing any number crunching? What is the answer to part C? Yeah? V final is negative 56, because what goes up must come.
No.
That works when you're on the ground and ending up on the ground. That's why it's 1 mark. VF will be negative VI. You could probably have come up with a way to crunch it and get that as an answer, Alex, and go ahead. But my hint was 1 mark. You could probably get there pretty quick. Okay? In fact, I'll do D in a second, but how many marks is E worth? What's the displacement? 0? Because how high were you when you started? 0. How high were you when you finished? 0. What's your change in position? 0. Your displacement is 0. You can put meters there, but 0 if you don't put the units. I don't freak out. Now let's do D. How long is the ball in the air for? One way to do part D is to take your answer from A and then double it. That works. So you could go, what was it, 5.71 times 2? And if I had done A already, I would probably do that. So one option is 11.42 seconds. If you did that, I would give you 1 mark for that and 1 mark for that. What if I hadn't done part A already? Well, then I would say, you know what? VI was 56. VF was negative 56. A was negative 9.8. And I can crunch T equals VF minus VI over A, negative 56 minus 56 over negative 9.8. I might even do it this way to check my answer from A, because if I go bracket negative 56 minus 56 close bracket divided by negative 9.8, if I get 11.4 and if I divide that by 2, do I get my answer from A? A must be right.
Oh my goodness.
Okay?
Back to check.
What else can we do? Next page. First thing that I did in number 3 when I saw the word straight down, I crossed out the 14 and I wrote a big negative 14 meters per second to make sure I wouldn't forget the negative. Easy to do. Done. Hits the ground. How high is the cliff? Okay, so again, they want me to find a displacement. This time VI is negative 14. A is negative 9.8, T is 22. I'm going to argue this is actually the same as 1A, it's just that VI isn't 0. I'm still going to use the same equation, D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. The only issue is the VIT doesn't cancel. Okay, a little bit more typing, but the D's already by itself. D is going to be negative 14 times 22 plus 0.5 times negative 9.8 times 22 squared. Check for typos. That looks good. Do you get negative 2,680? No? Yes? Yeah?
Oh yeah. Wait. Negative 2063.
Did I make a typo? Negative 14 times 22 plus a half A T. I think I'm right. Yes?
I got negative 2000. That's all.
You got this one?
No, I got What's going on? Did anybody get
So-
the answer?
If you got 2060, here's what you did. I think you forgot the negative in front of the 14. I think you forgot to make it negative.
Same thing.
So I would take a half mark off. I underlined straight down, negative.
It's funny because I underlined straight down and put a negative under it as well.
What's the impact velocity of the ball? So again, this one's going to ask me to find V final. Those of you that made V initial positive 14, you'll get 1.5 out of 2. But for now, VI is negative 14, A is negative 9.8, T is 22. And again, this is the same as 1B. It's just that VI doesn't cancel this time. It's going to be negative 14 plus negative 9.8 times 22. I got negative 230.
Same.
If you miss the negative on the 14, you'll end up getting, oh,
Gosh darn it. I'm so mad at myself. I'm making these silly mistakes.
14 plus negative 9.8 times 22. You would get negative 202. I would give you 1.5.
For what?
Next page over. Find the impact velocity. What did I write in brackets? That's a hint. Okay, so my first thought, I went, oh, okay. VF equals question mark. VI is 34. A is negative 9.8. D is 252. And I've made a mistake. Can you see it?
Yes.
What?
Straight up.
Okay, the 252 has to be negative because we're on a cliff ending up below from where I started. So I said, okay, I'm going to use VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD. And then to get the VF by itself, I'm going to square root. So I said it's going to be the square root of 34 squared plus 2 times negative 9.8 times negative 252. 34 squared plus 2 times negative 9.8 times negative 252. Oh, that's fast. Oh, square root, square root, square root. And I got 78.1, so I wrote VF equals 78.1 meters per second. Why will that give you 1.5 out of 2? What? This also, I have to add the negative after the fact because I know it's traveling down. So if you didn't put the negative there, I would take a half mark off. So this careful, there was two carefuls. Make the displacement negative, and you have to make the velocity negative when you're done. I like this question. I like this question. I like this question. Yes?
That's the
Are they a totally different way? But I still get the same answer?
So if you found time first,
No.
what'd you do?
No, it's not totally different.
What'd you do?
I thought you had to find how high the ball goes when it's thrown straight up, and then past that, and how high the cliff is.
That will work. You did way more work than necessary, but that will work. You can break it up into chunks.
You're so silly.
Well, in some ways, the math for that is easier. You're not having to worry about the oops negatives showing up or not showing up or whatever, because there I think it will take care of it, but less work. B, time. Well, my first thought was this: D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. Now it's going to get the T by itself. Why can't I get the T by itself here? Okay, there's more than one T. If VI is 0, I can get the T by itself. Or if A is 0, I can get the T by itself. But if I have them both around, I can't. So you can either use the quadratic formula, or I'm going to use my answer from part A. I'm going to say T equals VF minus VI over A. It's going to be negative 78.1, but I'm going to use my answer button, minus 34 all over negative 9.8. Negative answer button, there's my negative 78.1, minus 34 divided by negative 9.8. If you do that, you get that it was in the air for 11.4 seconds. Now, if you didn't put the negative in front of the 78, if you went 78.1 minus 34 divided by negative 9.8, and you got negative 4.5, hopefully that would let you know that something was wonky. But if you just said, well, I'll ignore the negative and make it 4.5, I would give you 1.5 out of 2 for part B. So you kind of, this was a hint that you're missing a negative. Okay? No. Negative 9.8. What did you get? Check if you put brackets around the top.
74.53.
Okay, show me your calculator later and I'll look at it. Next page. Number 5 here, this is a multi-step question. I put this on your quiz. I'm not going to put it on your test, but I wanted the quiz to be tougher than the test. So how fast does the child hit the ground? I said, okay, this wants me to find V final. I guess hitting the ground is at the bottom of the slide. At the bottom of the what? Slide. I'm going to list stuff on the slide. It looks like VI was 0. I saw from rest. It looks like D was 4, and it looks like T was 2.5. You could have let down the slide be negative. You could have let the D be negative. I'll take either, because here a slide is slanty. It's not really clear, is that down or up? Well, what do you want to do? And it's really arbitrary anyways. So I did that. Which equation? I said, okay, VF equals A. No, Mr. Dewick, that's not right. Oh, I'm going to have to use D equals bracket VI plus VF times T over 2. Why can't I use A as negative 9.8? Sliding down a slide. Are you in free fall? No, you're not in free. You're sliding at an angle. You're not in free fall, so you're not accelerating at negative 9.8. Only if the slide was dead vertical and you weren't touching the slide. Well, that's what a cliff is. Okay. So I said VI is 0, so I'm going to get the VF by itself. I think it's going to be 2 times D over T, and then technically it'll be minus VI, but since VI is 0, I didn't care. That's going to be VF. It's going to be 2 times 4 divided by 2.5. And I got 3.2 meters per second. If you called that negative because you let the 4 be negative, I'm fine with that. Is that all right? Then they want me to find the acceleration in stopping. I said, okay, stopping tells me that VF is 0. And it gave me a displacement, although I crossed out that 25 and I made it 0.25. It looks like the child's knees bend that much. Mr. Dewick, didn't they bend down? Couldn't you call that negative? If you did, I'm fine with that. I'll show you either option here. But right now I only have 2 things. I need 3 things. What else do I know? I have to use my answer from A. If you got A wrong, but you dropped your answer into B and you used it as your answer here, I would give you full marks for part B. A is going to be VF squared minus VI squared all over 2D. It's going to be 0 squared minus 3.2 squared all over 2 times 0.25. I'm slowing down, I'm going to get a negative acceleration, or if you let down be negative, you will get a positive acceleration because you're traveling down but slowing down, which means you're accelerating up. I'll take either a positive or a negative answer for this one. Do you get negative 20.5?
Yeah.
How many G's is that? If I know the acceleration, how do I convert an acceleration into G's? About 2 G's. Not too bad. Okay. I would give you 1 mark for that. Sorry, I would give you a half mark if I saw that. Half mark for that. Half mark for the numbers. Half mark for the answer. Here, 1 mark for that. Half mark. Half mark. Number 6. This one is also tougher that I'm going to ask on a test. This is a multi-step. But I wanted, again, the quiz to be more difficult. So we looked at this one in the homework, and we said the key was to realize there was a section while the driver was coasting, and there was a section while the driver was braking. And the first thing is we're going to find the distance they travel while coasting. We're going to find the distance they travel while braking, and then the total distance is going to be, add them up. Now let's make my list. It looks like VI is 15. It looks like time is 0.5. It looks like when we're braking, A is negative 8. And it looks like V final is 0. Problem, in both of these, I only know 2 things. Who remembers what our clever aha moment was when we're coasting if we're going at a constant speed? Yeah. If we're not accelerating, what is that exactly as a number? A equals 0. And so we end up with this. D equals VIT. The half AT squared vanishes, which is going to be 15 times 0.5. I can do that in my head. 7.5 meters. Travel 7.5 meters before slamming on the brakes. Now they slam on the brakes. They're decelerating at almost 1 G. Oh, I only know 2 things. I need 3 things. Who remembers what was our aha moment for this one?
If you're braking, your initial velocity
Keep going.
is going
How fast are we traveling right here, Matt?
15 meters.
How fast are we traveling right here? Have we hit the brakes yet? 15? How fast are we traveling here?
15 meters per second.
How about right here?
You're still going 15 meters per second.
So VI is still 15 when we hit the brakes. There's our 3rd thing. Now I can find the 4th. It's going to be D equals VF squared minus VI squared all over 2A. It's going to be 0 squared minus 15 squared all over 2 times negative 8. I get 14.0625. I haven't rounded off yet because I'm not at my final answer, so I'll carry the extra decimals since it's not that much. So the final distance is going to be 7.5 plus 14.0625. And I get 21.6 meters. Is that right? Or am I wrong? Okay. If you got that, I would give you 4 out of 4. Otherwise, how would I give out part marks for this? I would give you 1 mark if you found the 7.5. I would give you 1 mark if you found the 14.06. I would give you 1 mark if you realized I need to add them together, and I would give you 1 mark for the answer. Yes? I forgot to close the bracket? Am I wrong? Where? Ah, I'm totally wrong. Thank you, Aiden. This is total garbage. Mr. Dewick. Did it make a difference? Why didn't it make a difference? I lucked out with the 0 squared. So it ended up not making a difference because the first term is a 0, but that's a total fluke. You're right. I should have closed off the bracket. Yeah.
I only did the breaking part. I completely forgot to do the coasting part.
So you would get 1 out of 4. Yeah. Okay. Can you give yourself a no? You do corrections and learn from your mistakes. Can you give yourself a lovely score at the top out of 32, please? If you need to lawyer with me, now is the time.